Namiki Conner put out a video. We need less clickbait and more strategy. Less clickbait and more strategy.
Labor is the leverage. They need labor. But labor is also the star of this moment. How many of our teachers, nurses, flight attendants, postal workers, doormen and women, transportation workers, and domestic workers have been on the front lines for us during this crisis? How many of our frontline labor workers showed up and voted for Joe Biden and organized for Joe Biden?
Millions!
That better is not just a slogan. But Biden won't do anything. Congress will not do anything, as we are seeing, unless real organized power results, not just behind the scenes, but...
So she's right that Joe Biden and the U.S. Congress ain't going to do shit. We only got those 12 progressives that might, those are the little tiny bit of hope that we have, which is why I want them shooting three-pointers, so we can be a three-point shot team, right? We don't have the numbers, we don't have the power to get into the paint and force us, so we got to do, and so you got to create as much space as you can in order for the progressives to make as many three-point shots as possible. And police brutality, and the war on drugs, $2,000 a month UBI checks, and Medicare for all.
But publicly, they demand results. So we can be on the outside and amplify, and that's where our clicks are helpful. But labor has a seat at the table, and they have leverage, and they can negotiate. Remember Flight Attendants Union President Sarah Nelson looking the big airlines straight in the eye and protecting her members, and the companies as their businesses collapsed this year, and doing what many have been able to do, making Donald Trump cave? Sarah Nelson is an example of a real leader who sees power, understands power, and who can be central to executing the strategy of bringing Biden and other Democrats around to what we need to do.
So I never heard of Namiki Conner or known anything about her. She's on the wrong side of force to vote. She is, very pretty, and she's dynamic, she's smart, she's intelligent, and unfortunately she's just on the wrong side of this issue. And, this is where the conversation begins. We need less clickbait? Okay, sure, whatever. But it seems like this is where the conversation begins. She did mock Jimmy Dore. He takes that Assad money. Does Assad actually give Jimmy Dore any money whatsoever? I like how David Pakman, here's David Pakman. I used to, but anyways, a caller asked him, and the caller describes it pretty good, the Jimmy Dore thing, but they missed one major point.
The problem is...
So here is...
Let's go to Andrew from Miami. Andrew from Miami, you're on the air.
Hi, David. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hey, so I was wondering what your thoughts are on the Jimmy Dore versus AOC discussion that's been going on Twitter. Are you familiar with it?
No, I'm not. What's going on now?
I think it's pretty important and pretty interesting to talk about. Is Jimmy Dore is currently trying to argue that AOC and the squad should force Nancy Pelosi to put a House vote on Medicare for all by basically refusing to vote for her for Speaker of the House.
Okay.
And I think it would really do a lot in forcing the House to actually put that to a vote and bring it into the national spotlight, as opposed to just giving in to Nancy Pelosi's standard demands of making her Speaker like we do every time.
Does Nancy Pelosi need the 4 votes from the squad to become Speaker?
So the squad actually consists of more than just...
So it's actually a really close vote. It's a real close vote. The guy, he doesn't mention that this is going to be used to primary opponents. I don't know what that strategy would be called. So I'm just going to talk about what the strategy is, and maybe a name will emerge. So... you got a minority party, you got a majority party. If I'm in the minority party, okay, and I want to embarrass you or to get a vote, I want you to make a tough decision. And I want you to make a tough decision, and I want you to go the opposite direction so that way next year I could run against you on that issue. Or, whatever. I could get people to run against you on that issue. So we're going to go ahead and vote for homelessness. Do you want to get rid of homelessness? Well, these are the people that doesn't give a shit about the homeless population. These are the people that do. These are the people that don't. And so by getting that on record, Okay, so we voted for homelessness, 1 year elapsed, and then I say, hey, I'm going to primary them or run against them and wherever, because these assholes don't care about the homeless population. They don't care about the homeless people. And how do we know that? Because we had that vote. So that's why we need to have a Medicare for all vote. As progressives, we could have had Bernie care. We could have had the whole fucking apparatus, and hell, all we're doing is asking for an up or down vote. Up or down vote. So the tactic and the strategy, it makes sense. It's 100%. And actually, we got to quit saying it over and over again to primary the opponents, because we're going to get Medicare for all, right? We're going to get Medicare for all. So we need to get Medicare for all because American people need to get it. No, fuck your strategies, fuck your tactics. We got to get Medicare for all. Whatever gets us to that end goal. We've been fighting for this shit for fucking forever. So we need to get somewhere. We need to progress. Public option, for Biden's, that's progress towards his direction, or Medicare for all for everybody, Bernie care. Those are the two options.
Just 4 people at this point. I mean, the Progressive Caucus of the Democratic Party is around 100 people.
But hold on a second. But the squad is not 100 people. I mean, maybe the squad is like 6 or 8 if you include some of the new people coming in. So is the claim that 4 to 8 people should abstain from voting for Nancy Pelosi?
Yes.
Or that the
yes, David Pakman. For God's sakes.
Yeah. So.
Yes.
The entire Progressive Caucus would be great, but obviously not all of them are actually progressive, right? They're just there for the name of it.
I guess I'm wondering what leverage 4 to 8 members of Congress have to stop Nancy Pelosi from being Speaker. I just don't have the math in front of me.
Yeah, the math turns out to be actually that it would be a pretty close vote, and even some members of the Progressive Caucus have admitted that the vote could come down to as close as, 2 to 5 votes if some people aren't there for COVID reasons, etc. So there's actually some power in the hands of the progressives in the House.
And so what would be the goal of so they do a vote and then what, I guess? The vote?
Yeah. So the vote would show that these are the people who are against Medicare for all during a national pandemic. Okay. During this COVID crisis where 3,000 people are dying per day, almost 300,000 have already died, and these people are against voting for that guaranteed health care during that pandemic. And we've also seen during this last election that everybody who supported Medicare for all won their runoff election. Mm-hmm. So
yes, that's true. There is significant self-selection bias in saying that, because you have to look at, where did people, what were the races in which people were running with that position? So I think there's a bit of a reverse engineering problem there, a chicken egg problem. But more importantly, don't we, I'm fine with votes for whatever, do whatever votes people want to do. I think it's great. Don't we know who's for and against Medicare for all? Aren't members of Congress on the record on that?
Isn't the current vice president on the record having been for Medicare for all, and then she turned around and said that she's not? So it seems like when it's advantageous for people to be for it.
Oh, the vice president-elect, you mean?
Yes, sorry, that's what I meant. When it's advantageous for people to be for it, they're for it. Yeah. And then when they're in positions of power, they're suddenly against fighting for it. So I think that's an interesting, conundrum there, isn't it?
I mean, listen, I think it's fine to do that, but it seems also like either way, it's a political posturing thing to make a list of names of who's been naughty and nice, sort of. And then the problem is it's not going to do anything for anybody. It will literally get us no closer to getting everybody coverage or a coronavirus stimulus or saving a business that's about to go out of business. So, I have no, the House can do whatever it wants, and sure, do it. I don't know that they have the leverage to even get Nancy Pelosi to do it, and even if they do, it's a beltway story in the sense that people who right now are about to lose their business or not pay their mortgage, they don't benefit by getting a list of members of Congress that were hypocritical on Medicare for all. Would I be curious? I guess. But I just don't know that we really are doing anything for the people by making that the focus. And remember, I haven't seen any of what you're talking about on Twitter. I'm just taking you at your word that you're describing it accurately.
Interesting. Yeah, Jimmy Dore was trending over the weekend about it, and it was on Rising and a few other programs as well.
Okay, yeah, I guess that's probably why I didn't see it. I don't watch other programs, and I didn't look at Twitter over the weekend.
So David Pakman doesn't look at Twitter over the weekend, and he doesn't watch other programs. Okay, that's why, David Pakman. Do you not respect anybody else in the field, or I don't watch any other programs? I'm sure. Never clicked on nobody's nothing. Just all David Pakman all the time. I will give David Pakman this credit. I thought that he was very thoughtful, and he took his time and kind of went with the caller and listened to him, and he seemed actually interested in the idea. The caller described the situation pretty good, but he didn't mention that it was to primary the opponents. So David Pakman's criticism was, what's next? What's next? Okay, you put up this vote, and it's inevitably going to fail, so then what's the point? Why did you do it? Oh, so that way we could get Medicare for all. We want to get health care, right? So we put the vote up, and then they said no to us, so the people that said no, we're going to get progressives from their district to run against them, and we're going to primary them. And then we're going to get somebody in there that's for Medicare for all, have another vote, and then get Medicare for all, So primarying the opponents. It's all about primarying the opponents. But see, that's the strategy. That's the tactic, We got to convince people that we got to get Medicare for all. So we got to get the vote. Ask the question. Just ask the goddamn question. Say yes or no. What is so fucking hard about this Congress? That's all they do is vote all day long. Ask the fucking question. Do you want Bernie care? Do you want Joe Biden's public option? Or nothing? Or something different? It's got to be one of those four. And no, we don't have anybody on the record that precise. Because Kamala, she was for Bernie care, then she changed her goddamn mind. So what the fuck does she even support? We don't know. We don't know, and we can get this. It is close enough. The squad does have leverage. Kathleen Rice just won that Energy and Commerce Committee chair because she threatened to withhold her vote for Nancy Pelosi. So they're going to scramble. They're going to try to make sure the progressives don't have any fucking voice whatsoever, but that's the game they're playing. That's the game that Blue Dogs, the conservative Democrats are playing, the neoliberals. So the caller did a pretty good job in explaining the whole thing, but the very last thing David Pakman just said, what next? Primary the opponent, get Medicare for all. This does, he was saying that this doesn't get us any closer to Medicare for all, but it does. It gets us substantially closer. We actually had a fucking vote. And then I heard, actually, Hassan Abi, and I'm going to talk about him in a second. He knows that the women's right to vote was a total accident. The women's right to vote, there's no mobilizing, there is no pushing, there is no this or that. There is a Senate, and they thought it wouldn't work, and they tried to do this, and then some procedural bullshit, and then bam, fucking women got the right to vote, some shit like that. That's what Hassan Abi had said. So if the AOC and if the politicians in Washington actually, you got to put it up for a vote. You got to put it up for a fucking vote. That's where this is where the conversation begins. Now let's talk about the other issues we want. But Medicare for all, if we don't even talk about Medicare for all, then fuck, the YouTube progressive nation should just hang up their hat and give it up. Quit. Just quit. You don't know which side you're on. You don't understand the people that you're trying to fight for or talk to. Your working class people are fucking hurting. People need shit. Medicare for all. Medicare, I'd rather, have land reform and universal basic income. But every other nation has health, care. Healthcare is life. Health is a human right. It's a fucking right. In a pandemic, who would vote against healthcare in a pandemic? So I like how David Pakman, he seemed to have been very methodical. He's like a Tim Black. I got so much more respect for Tim Black now. Not because he didn't say yes or no. He did seem like, the onus, the responsibility of the Medicare for thing is on Jimmy Dore. He's got to convince everybody, me and anybody else that supports the idea. So we got to convince these folks. So just because we start talking to somebody and they're not on board at first, I think that as long as we're respectful and decent and nice, then eventually, they can get on board. So I feel like I really like how David Pakman was methodical went through that question, took the guy serious, and he said, yeah, vote for it. You want to vote? Go ahead, get the vote. No big deal. Who gives a shit, right? So David Pakman, this is going to be like, he's going to, blow up the conversation. Let's see how many views he's already got so far. 38,000 views. He just posted it yesterday. 38,000 views. So, where does David Pakman stand right now? Looks like he's for no on force the vote because he doesn't see part two. He doesn't see or understand part two. But I like how he thought about it and, articulated and kind of broke it down piece by piece. And so I'm going to give him a day or two. I'm going to give him a day or two to see what's going on. He might pull Tim Black and evolve. Tim Black was against it. The people were criticizing him. He got some pushback, and he started thinking about it, and he was like, you know what? Hold the vote. Hold a fucking vote. You just want Pelosi to vote on Bernie care? Hold the vote. So good job, David Pakman. Ben Dixon, what are you saying?
Consider her a colleague, but I also consider her wrong on a whole lot of issues, and this is the issue that she's wrong on. And she continuously is wrong on this issue, and she continuously serves the role as a black person who would be the spokesperson for white progressiveness that has not done away with their white supremacy. That role was mine, and I obviously turned it down.
So Marcus for America is like, Ben Dixon, you crazy. Marcus for America, you need to come get your boy. You need to come get your boy. So we'll talk about Hassan Abi. Hassan Abi is no, shockingly, on forced vote. We are exposing all the grifters. All the grifters are getting exposed this Christmas.
I act like I'm drunk. She's kind of hot. Every week.